Hey, it's E.B Moss, and this is episode 49 in season 2 of Insider Interviews, where you get the insider scoop on the business of media, marketing, and advertising. And today the scoop is coming from Blake Hebert. Or is it Hebert? Yeah?
Yes, either are acceptable. Thank you.
Okay. But I'm guessing it's not to be confused with a certain Clemson Notre Dame quarterback of the same name. You're the one that's quarterbacking publisher operations at Premion, right?
That's right. Yeah.
I did my homework.
Yes.
All right. So we've had a couple of folks on from Premion before, and I'm going to ask you to talk a little bit about the company. But first, let's get a little bit of your origin story, because I love the fact that, from what I know, you've been like on both sides of the channels, the buy side, the sell side. Give us the top line, Blake.
Sure. Yeah. So I started out beginning of my career at RPA in Santa Monica, working on Honda and Acura.
Love those guys. You know, I had Joe Baratelli on, so maybe I'll link to that episode. RPA is great.
Yeah, it was a really impactful experience in my career, and I still use that agency side experience in communications and things I do today.
Yeah.
From there, I worked at Jumpstart Automotive, now part of Hearst, so stuck with the autos theme for a bit, and then pivoted into the video space where I worked at Hulu, and then later SpotX Magnite, getting my programmatic chops over there.
Perfect. So you are very well-rounded, which I'm sure comes in pretty handy at a company like Premion. Give us a little bit of the elevator pitch. How would you describe Premion?
Yeah, Premion really exists to help the local-focused advertisers harness all of the complexities that take place in both OTT and just in digital in general. And so we try to make things easy for, the guys who may not be a national HOCO agency.
Got it. And complexity is the operative word these days. I know that you're trying to solve for that, but there is some big news in your life as a result. I think that there's a brand new bouncing baby Advertiser Perceptions survey that's keeping you busy. Oh, yeah. And you're a new dad, right?
Yeah, I was like, we got a couple of, I guess there's some fragmentation at home too now, because we have two little ones. My wife just had our baby boy about 2 months ago.
That's
His
great.
name is Ford. That's her maiden name, even though
not from your automotive days.
Not from my automotive days.
Amazing.
But people seem to really like it. And then I have a 3.5, almost 4-year-old daughter named Lane. So they keep us pretty busy at home, and she's fully embracing being a big sister now. That's been exciting.
That's so sweet. I love it. Now, I will say that Premion puts out a new baby every year.
I think this is our fourth baby for the perception survey. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, let's talk a little bit more about that report and some of the ways that you're responding or actually being proactive about stuff in the industry. So this Advertiser Perceptions report is all about CTV, right? And what's the big headline of the report?
The big headline is really that we continue to see the acceleration in the space, and really about 70% of our respondents are stating that they're going to grow their CTV investment, which I don't think is a total shock, but they continue to see the momentum. And the other, maybe I'll give away a note I had for later, is only 1% of the respondents said that they were going to decrease their CTV budget. So I think it's pretty safe to say that CTV is here, and it's not going anywhere from a budget standpoint or consumer viewership standpoint.
So there's more confidence in CTV, especially about being able maybe to drive outcomes, but I like to define things. So when advertisers are talking about outcomes, what are they really trying to, what does that mean?
Yeah, I think for some advertisers that might be website attribution or activities on their site. For others, it might be actual sales at the cash register. we have been able to help them solve for both. And so we've had a number of different case studies over the last couple of years that I've been here that really prove the value and the ROI that CTV brings. And so I think that's been a big part of why you continue to see the investments grow.
Okay. But we're hearing a lot more about total TV, and another shift is towards like converged video planning. Talk about how advertisers are kind of changing the way that they think about linear versus streaming, linear and streaming.
Yeah. So I think one thing that really stands out over the last few years is that there's really no more which bucket has this person fit into. I think everyone really agrees that consumers do both, and they don't necessarily make a decision to I'm going to stream or I'm going to watch traditional linear television. And so as a marketer and advertiser, you have to be able to reach those people where they're at. And so I think when it comes to the planning side of things, the marketers have been able to take that into account and make sure that they're covering not necessarily based on how we categorize things, but based on where the consumers go.
And that applies in both local and regional, because it seems like CTV is a little bit complicated, is what I want to ask. So how is a local advertiser able to navigate that space without the big bucks of the big agency world?
Yeah, and I think that's a big part of our value proposition is that I get to help, curate and aggregate access to all these different places. And then on the local level, we can go and bring that out to market so that a buyer in, Austin can not only reach the local viewers that are watching their local broadcast, but all the other places that people go to stream content now. So that might be across Hulu or, Warner Brothers Discovery, Paramount Plus, on and on. And so not all of those places are as easy to access for the local buyers. And we are able to combine all that for them to have the access, but also to be able to layer on data and still be able to find large enough audiences out there in the ecosystem.
Is that basically curation? Is that the definition of it?
I think that is a buzzword the last couple of years. And to me, it's funny in this industry, a lot of terms that are, older coming back around again.
Right.
Sometimes, things that used to be, they used to have a lot of negative connotation with can evolve into becoming something new again, right? So, I think of ad networks in that way that, initially they were saving the day, and then a couple years later, you didn't want to be buying a network without having a lot of visibility. I think the term aggregator kind of got played around with a bit that way, and now here's a new word, curation, and it's kind of not that much different. I think the key difference with curation is that you get a lot more visibility, and you can look at all the different signals that are coming through, from the bid stream, and that allows us to curate things in a much more intelligent way, as opposed to just kind of buying in bulk based off of a publisher's name or a site's name.
Okay, because when I think of curation, I think about just selecting a lovely collection of stuff. But your stuff is basically designed intentionally by applying data on top of it. So you're almost creating a bespoke collection or curating in a very intentional way based on the target that's informed by the data.
Yeah, because all these things have to link together to work, right? I think that sometimes is something that we miss in the industry is we want to do all the things, and then when you start to layer them together, they don't always work as neatly as you would like. So curation is definitely a component in that, and making sure that we have access to the right supply that works with the different data segments that we want to use.
Now, you mentioned that you work with different publishers. I don't think I gave you a chance to explain exactly what your role is at Premion, and that'll give us another buzzword, context for, who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so my role at Premion is a lot different than what I did for most of my career, which is actually really exciting for me because I get to leverage all of my knowledge and experience from the past to help navigate this complex space that we're in. So what I do is I work with all of the publishers. So we'll typically on a monthly basis, there's about 40 meetings I'll have with external partners A lot of times it's reviewing our activity, or sometimes it's onboarding new ones. I also work with all the SSPs as well. So get to work with some of my old friends at Magnite. And then, of course, everyone, cross-pollinates in this space. So there's friends that I have at other SSPs as well. And so a big part of what I do is knowing all the acronyms. I always like to call that out. There's about 100 acronyms that I've got burned in my brain now. And try to simplify it for the internal teams, that both from a marketing and sales standpoint, but then also I work with the tech team. So in some ways I have to be that go-between across a lot of different groups to help explain how all this stuff works, who a new partner is. So those are the kinds of things that my internal teams lean on me to help figure out. Where do we put these guys, or how do we explain what they do to the markets? And then there's always changes to existing partners as well. So understanding what pause ads mean and how do we navigate that, right?
Yeah.
So that's the fun part of my job in some ways, is I get to, hear about all the latest and greatest from the industry. And then I have to bring it back internally, and we think about, how do we productize this? How do we make this work for, our sweet spot of advertisers, which is really more focused in the, mid-market local space.
I'm really excited that you brought up innovation. And I know that Premion really likes to handhold their clients and deliver some innovative stuff. But I know that marketers are also a little challenged, and this came out in the report too, by stuff like fragmentation and walled gardens. How are you talking to marketers now? What are you hearing from the field, and how do you help them solve for some of those challenges?
Yeah, walled gardens continue to be a talking point for us. And
by the way, by that we mean like Roku and Amazon, who are a little less flexible.
Yeah, I think, YouTube TV and that collection of that garden, is definitely a big one. Amazon is another big one. When it comes to the walled gardens, the one thing that I've communicated to our internal teams, and I think is out in the marketplace from our point of view, is that the consumers aren't just in those gardens. They kind of float across those invisible lines, right? So, while there may be some specific unique things that each one of those walled gardens might offer, consumers aren't necessarily contained within them, right? So they'll, myself included, will watch Amazon Prime, but then I'll also flip back over to watching my Hulu app, right? So, people will go in and out of these walled gardens. The key is being able to not only reach them within the walled garden, but find them when they go elsewhere. And I think that's a big part of what we've been educating the marketplace on, is that consumers aren't just in one place. They're going to float between things. And it's good to have a relationship and connection with them while they're in one of those walled gardens.
Yeah.
But that's not the only place that they're streaming, or that's not the only place that they're going to be reached.
But that impacts like measurement and transparency. That's a frustration for marketers these days. Can you help with that?
We have some solutions that will help bridge those gaps in terms of being able to reach the user and then understand where they're coming from based on a number of different identifiers. And so, we do have some solutions that will help bridge the gap. But in general, there's always going to be a little bit of an opaque, space that we can't totally measure when it comes to that, unless everything's all under one umbrella, which to this day, I don't think that there's really a place that has everything under one umbrella. You're going to have those gaps.
What about managing like reach and frequency, especially like holistically with linear and streaming? What are teams doing these days that help get that right?
Yeah, so we work with third-party vendors to help measure that, and we can provide that incremental reach that CTV offers, which has been a great way for us to showcase that you're not necessarily, if you think about traditional television, many years ago, it was always the hardest to get the last few points of a demo. Yep. And so in this world, the same thing's sort of true when it comes to the limitations that linear TV provides, but you can also now prove the extension of CTV is reaching those audiences that maybe you didn't get enough frequency with, or you just didn't reach at all through your linear buy.
And there's a certain product that might help with optimization. It's a very short acronym, but we have to say it. AI.
Oh gosh, AI. Yes, it's everywhere. You can't escape it.
It's everywhere. It's everywhere.
I think AI is. I'm really excited about AI personally. I'm
Okay.
using it more and more in my day-to-day work. I think, well, there's some things to be concerned about, rightfully. I think for most people in our space, the sooner you can embrace it and understand how to use it as a tool, the better you'll be in the long run. And I think there's ultimately only so much that AI is going to be able to do before you have to trust a human to make some decisions. And so the way that I see AI affecting things in our ecosystem is helping with mapping of things, right? Like you can't necessarily make an action on something unless you have things mapped on the back end. And so we're using it from that standpoint. And from a creative standpoint, there's lots of different companies out there today that are helping the local and small, medium-sized businesses build ads using assets that they might use on social or other platforms that they are more comfortable with and that they have mastered to a degree. So I think AI offers a lot of really great solutions for this space, and it's already disrupting things. But I don't think unless you let it, I don't think it's going to take your job. I think you have to think of ways to leverage it to make your job and what you do at your job more impactful.
Agree. And there was also some confidence about that when AI was brought up in the Advertiser Perceptions survey. And I think that buyers, planners are feeling a little bit more optimistic about being able to leverage it to optimize campaign planning and things like that, right?
I did look at a segment of our respondents to see on the local level if there was any differences versus the averages, right? And so for all of those categories, real-time campaign optimization, smarter audience targeting and segmentation, automated reporting insights, those are all higher when it comes to looking at the local levels. I think local advertisers are looking to AI solutions to help bridge the gaps that they may have on their side that national advertisers don't really have to worry about as much, right? Like most national advertisers have a dedicated creative agency that can help them with a lot of these things. Whereas on the local level, the funds for that are a little bit limited because you got to make sure you have enough budget to buy the media as well, right? So I think the value that AI offers for local is really key. And I think we'll see in 2026 if this all comes to light. I think it's probably a little bit longer runway, but it's really promising that people are already thinking of it that way.
And so speaking of the future in 2026, if you were advising advertisers who are planning out their 2026 strategies today, what's the one thing you would tell them to either prioritize or please get over it already?
So I think the thing that is really interesting is, we talked about data targeting and audiences. Everyone wants to target to, the nth degree on a local level. That can be really problematic. So, I think the theme for me is balance, right? So targeting is great. When you get to the local level, sometimes it's also worth thinking of the targeting as who am I taking out of my pool, right? So,
tell me more about that. What do you mean?
So when it comes to the way that digital targeting works, we're looking for identifiers that say, I'm in market to buy a car, or, I have a kid, right? And sometimes
Perfect for you.
Those can be somewhat delayed, right? So when you start using audience segments to target people, in a national level, there's going to be a huge pool for you to work with. As you get lower and lower on the geo targeting, those pools can shrink. And so, targeting someone who's in market for fast food and also a Halloween intender, right? If you're in the month of October, you might not need to add the Halloween intender segment, right? It's going to just limit you in terms of the audiences that you could reach. So those are the kind of examples I think when it comes to coaching, what people should be thinking about for, their 2026 strategy is balance the targeting and also let the data targeting kind of tell you more of where your audiences are at. Sometimes we'll get feedback around, I didn't want to be in it, see as much inventory run as on a specific partner. That may be the data targeting that's really driving that outcome, not necessarily just the cost of the media. But data presents a lot of really great opportunities, but you also have to balance it with the number of segments and then also the expectation of what you might see compared to your more demo-based buying, where you're looking for a certain profile of publishers that might show up and report it.
Yeah. Well, clearly I do a lot of work in podcasting, and one of the things that a lot of the researchers in that area say, look, just because you're trying to target on a B2B level, that doesn't mean that your business prospect doesn't also listen to comedy shows. I mean, that kind of dumbs it down, but that's the point, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Like the human. Don't forget the human in the business.
I think a new thing that's popping up that I'm looking at is gaming. There's, obviously when I think of gaming, I think of mobile devices. But now these smart TVs also have games in there. And I don't think it'll be much longer before we start to get buys who maybe someone wants to be in that space, because that's a pretty engaged audience. And mobile's done really well, but now it's going to be in the living room. So we'll see.
Right.
We'll see where things go at the end of 2026.
Look, if LinkedIn can start gaming, which they've done, it's going to be everywhere. And sort of the first cousin of gaming is something that I know Premion is pretty bullish on, is sports and your live sports area. And you can now find sports everywhere. And so I know that you're platform agnostic about where they live, whether it's broadcast or CTV. So how are you leveraging sports for local advertisers?
Yeah, it's a hot topic, right? Everyone loves live sports. Nothing new. Live sports has been around for decades. What's shifted in the last couple of decades is it's really one of the few things people still watch live, right? Mm-hmm. Everything else seems to be available time shifted. And then maybe about 5 years ago, we started to see that there was inventory available on these streaming platforms. And now it's fully there, right? So all the virtual MVPDs, all the owned and operated platforms out there have their own slice of their live sports inventory. But again, like we talked about earlier, things can get very fragmented. And so one of the things that I do and our team does is help simplify that. So we work across all the different access points and make it easier for the local, mid-market advertisers to find live sports and report on it, so they can be confident that it's in the game and in live sports.
That's cool. Evening the playing field, as Peter Jones and I talked about.
Yes.
I love my puns. Now, I see you have a couple of, looks like University of Louisiana baseball caps in the background. Is baseball your sports drug of choice?
That would be the sport I played the longest. So from that standpoint, yes, I'd say I'm probably a bigger football fan.
Okay.
That's probably, I for sure. Football is my most viewed sport. And then, baseball I'll watch in person more, but streaming for baseball is just getting started because we're in spring training right now. So there's lots of, teams that are gearing up for the season as we speak.
Yeah. And you are right now in Austin, where we'll all be for South by Southwest when this podcast publishes. So is it a weirder place for media?
I would say since I've been here, and it's only been about 4 years I've lived in Austin, traditionally I would think of Austin as much more creative driven.
Yeah.
We have BSD&M, which is really the staple of our agencies here in Austin. But more and more I'm seeing smaller independent shops pop up. Some of them are specializing in programmatic media buying. So I think that this market has been, it's been weird for a while, and it'll continue to be weird. And I like that about it. So I think what I would say is it's not just GSD&M here, although we love GSD&M. We've got a lot of other great agencies and a lot of great brands here too. So We've got Dell, we've got Atmosphere TV is based here. I don't know if you're familiar
Right,
with those
with
guys.
another Blake. Uh-huh.
Yes, that's right. He lives in my neighborhood, actually. Funny
All
enough.
right.
So, Austin's weird. This year's South by Southwest will be a little bit shorter than the years past, in case you didn't know. But yeah, we're looking forward to hosting all of our friends. It's one of the few times people come to me. I'm usually on the road, going out to Possible or to Convergent TV. So, I'm excited that we finally get people down here to us. Probably a little bit of a break from the weather as well. Fingers crossed.
Well, I will see you in Austin. I will see you in Miami for Possible, I guess. And I don't know. We got to make it happen at Cannes next, I think, right?
Yeah, we'll see.
Tell the bosses.
Been the last couple of years. Possible was very productive for me from that standpoint too. This was the first year I've missed CES in quite a while, and I think I had the best excuse ever because my son was born the week of CES. But I do think it feels like Possible is kind of eating into either the Cannes or CES crowd. I can't tell which one.
That's what they're aiming for. It's true. I'll be over there. Just on a final note about Austin, and then I'll let you go. But I do want to give you the opportunity to give a shout out to an association that you're very vocal about, AAF. Do you want to tell us about that?
Sure. Yeah, I'm our Austin AAF club president. So really,
and what does that acronym stand for?
AAF stands for the American Advertising Federation.
Okay.
It's been around for over 100 years, and what's really cool about the club is it's actually a three-tiered club. So you have the national level, which we actually have a lobbyist in DC who advocates for the advertising and marketing industry, whether it be for data rights, on and on. We're part of District 10 in Austin, and then within that we have the local chapters like Dallas and Houston and so on. So I never thought I'd have president in my title at any point in my career, but here I am, and we have a really great community in Austin. We've got people from the media side, from the creative side of things. At South by, I'll have to connect with you more on that. We do
love to
things with the UK House, as well as GSD&M has a famous closing party that they host at their office. And it's always
people.
They always wait till the last minute to tell you who's going to perform, but it's usually a pretty well-known band. So
note to self.
Keep your plans open.
Mr. President, Blake Hebert, Senior Director of Publisher Operations at Premion. Thank you for walking us through your new babies.
Thank you for having me.
Well, I hope you got some good insider scoop from this episode of Insider Interviews with me, E.B Moss, and Media and Marketing Pros. If you did, give it a like, give it a share. If you'd like to learn more about how you can get your own podcast, reach out to me at podcasts@mossappeal.com or follow Insider Interviews anywhere. I'd like to thank my producer extraordinaire, Jim Mullen, and my theme music composer and performer, John Clayton. Thanks again for listening.